Yeah. All right, so let's begin this morning. Hi, everyone. I welcome you to this discussion on women and likability with some of our very own disruptors at WikiPR and Digital Marketing Council. Our panelists. All right, so let's begin this morning. Hi, everyone. I welcome you to this. Right, just a little technical glitch, but we're good to go. All right, so once again, sorry for a little disruption that we had. And of course, it had to happen. We were talking about the disruptors at WikiPR and Digital Marketing Council. So here are our panelists for today. Ms. Kavita Lakhani, National President, WikiPR and Digital Marketing Council, and Director Operations with Web Ashandik. Divya Narayan, Senior PR Manager at Amazon India. Neha Singhvi, Director Communication and Reputation at Games 24/7. Puja Trihan, Director Marketing Communication at Sugarbox Networks. And ladies, I welcome you all. My name is Neha Mishra, one of the proud members of WikiPR and Digital Marketing Council, founder at Neha Talks, partners with Economic Consulting, and I want to be liked. Haven't we all, at some point in time or other, tried to live up to the societal and cultural expectations of how to behave, not to argue, be led than lead? It is indeed a form of unconscious bias, which we together across genders should try to overcome. And on that note, I would like to invite your opening thoughts on this thing called as likability paradox. Do you think it is difficult for female leaders to be both liked and respected at the same time? So to begin this discussion, Kavita, let's start with you, and then I will come to each one of you one by one.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you so much for hosting us on this beautiful Sunday morning. Really happy to be with all my co-panelists, Neha, Dhupia, and Puja. My view on this is very simple, that, if you enjoy people's approval and feel a little bothered when people don't like you, you're not alone. You're absolutely, it's a very normal, natural thing. And, it's natural human psychology to want to be liked. It gives you a feeling of, wanting to be liked, makes you feel protected. It allows you to build human connections. And that's all nice. I think the problem actually arises, and this is not necessarily only for women, but for anyone, for any gender. It actually arises when you try and get too fixated, and you're really looking for people's approval, for anything that you do, and more importantly, you're allowing them to influence your decisions or your choices that you're making or your behaviors. So that's when I would say it reaches, it's an issue then, and if you're able to tackle that, then you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
Great. Thank you for those thoughts. Divya, can we hear your thoughts as well on this?
Firstly, thank you, Neha. Like Kavita said, I think we're all very excited to be here at this panel this morning. And I'm actually just going to take a step back and ask us, what is the concept of being likable, right? What is the definition of it? I mean, there are different definitions. Merriam-Webster says likable is about having qualities that bring about a favorable regard, right? So being pleasant, being agreeable. And if you look at the Urban Dictionary, it says likable is an adjective, meaning pleasant or attractive. It describes something that is easy to like, okay? And the truth is, most of us don't find strong, competent women easy to like, right? And in our society, right, women are penalized when we behave in ways that violate gender norms, right? And that is the fact. Like, women are supposed to be kind, nurturing, helpful, supportive, all of these. And men, on the other hand, traditionally are expected to be decisive, competent, assertive, strong, right? So the dilemma actually arises when women, kind of showcase these leadership qualities that are assertive and decisive, and that goes against the gender norm of what it is to be a likable woman, right? And most of us don't really understand what is it about these strong women leaders that we don't like. But there's something that bugs us, right? I mean, there's something there. And that is nothing but deep inside, it is the root of an unconditional, unconscious prescriptive bias, that's there. And it is about how we expect women leaders to behave. There are certain traits, there are certain, typically associated with women, and that do not correlate. So yes, I think when women leaders kind of speak up powerfully and they articulate their views and ideas that are strong and assertive, when they talk confidently about their achievements, they actually risk the perception of being perceived as less likable.
Fantastic. I mean, and you touched upon a lot of valid points, which I would love to discuss in a bit about this desire of expressing, but not being able to express because of these typical biases around and the fear of being judged, etc. Let's see what Neha has to add to these points. Neha, over to you.
Thank you, Neha, for having me here amidst all of you tenacious women on this lovely Sunday morning. Now I'll take on from what Divya's definition of likability was, and I love the way she started it off, and that got me thinking. If I must give feedback every day, such that it not only motivates you, but also pushes you out of your comfort zone, allows you to maximize your potential, will you like me? The answer is going to be definitely a no. But will you respect me? And the answer to it most likely will be a yes. It's a tightrope between likability and capability. And I also think that the likability paradox or the likability dilemma will continue to be there if we keep bifurcating leaders into two heads, leaders and female leaders. Now, one may argue that there's been a shift in the ask for leadership traits, in the acceptance of women as better leaders. I was reading, there was a survey quoted in Harvard Business Review done by the Zenger Folkman Consultancy, which showcased that women scored higher in leadership traits over men. Now we also have acceptance for a chief empathy officer. But when it comes to likability, the fact remains that the core leadership traits violate the gender norms set for women. And that's something that we need to recognize, accept, and can't run away from.
Absolutely. And then now when we're moving towards more inclusive environment and beyond genders, I mean, I really, really admire the point that you said. It has to move beyond, women leaders and leaders. It is leadership, and it has to be on that same ground. Puja, you've always been very vocal about this topic. And what is your view today on the starting note?
Thanks, Neha Mishra, for getting all of us here this Sunday morning. Trust me, you made it a breeze and you made us look forward to be coming on this panel. So all cheers and kudos to you. I am on the same planet as all the other three ladies, the way they presented their perspective. I want to start on a different note. I want to say, can we normalize telling our sons it's okay to cook in the kitchen and for them to launch businesses that caters to women products? Can we normalize for our daughters telling them it's okay to wrestle or probably make a career out of it? Now, these are deep-rooted norms in our society, family, friends, culture, the way we've been brought up. Unfortunately or fortunately, the change needs to happen there. That's why all of us today are here questioning, can we be liked and respected at the same time? Why are we even questioning that? Just do your work. The likability factor will follow, because likability does not foot your bills. Likability doesn't build your career. Likability is not going to get you the roof on your head. So what stops us from getting aggressive and telling people that it's fine, respect me for the talent that I bring to the table? Likability can happen. I mean, no other gender needs to fight that. Why are we even debating or thinking about it? That's one piece. The other piece is I read this journalist podcaster, a lady called Alicia Menendez. She's written this book on likability trap. She explains it beautifully. She says that we have an invisible scorecard that we've literally internalized for ourselves, and we allow others to, then grade us on different factors. Don't look at it like that. I mean, at some point of time, we need to build our own empire, build our own tribe, do what we are good at. I'm sure the way respect follows every other individual on this planet, it will follow women leaders, as much as I hate to say that word together, but it will follow women everywhere. I mean, it's called a Goldilocks conundrum, too warm, too cold. There's never a balance in life. Can we go back to Archie's comics? All of us remember the character Veronica. Did she ever, I mean, she blatantly went out walking across her college, her studies, her friends, that she is the spoiled brat by her father. She did not really change anything about herself, but nothing stopped. I mean, she didn't stop getting a huge line of lovers standing for her or friends. Betty was the most closest that she could have. Exactly the same piece. Go back to basics. Think through it. We as leaders, be it men or women, need to understand you today are being respected or spoken to for the talents that you bring on table. The minute you're nice to others and you're empathetic and you care how your actions and words make a difference, I'm sure the likability meter will move on its own. So that's my way to look at the whole topic.
Fantastic. And Pooja, on one side, I really admire and I'm in total sync with what you said when it comes to going back to basics and having the courage to do that. The other side of it is also that it comes from a lot of conditioning that you have been into. It comes from a lot of biases that you've been ingrained with since childhood, and also taking it forward from the second part when you said that do your work and focus on being respected. And a lot of our panelists spoke about that. I would like to pick up from there. Now, in my personal experiences and also things which I observed around, when it comes to members joining a team led by a woman, one of the very common sentiments that are observed is that she's very demanding. She does not compromise. She thinks too high of herself. So there are highly motivated women, goal-oriented women, so on and so forth. But then this is the sentiment that people have around them. So my question, taking on from there to Divya, let's start with you. Is that why do you think are these highly motivated, goal-oriented, assertive women considered aggressive and unlikable in the first place?
Yeah, so there are different perspectives to this, right? And I think, like you said, I think it's the deep-rooted, sentiment that's there in our society, and it's about stereotypes, right? When we traditionally think about leaders, they tend to fall in the masculine category, right? It's just a deep-seated bias. And now numerous studies, right, across many different countries and age groups have actually consistently demonstrated that when individuals think of a typical leader or a manager or whatever, they actually think of a male, and they think of those male characteristics, like I spoke about before. And the world feels, right, in contrast, when you have like a female leader, stereotypes are being triggered, right? Like when you look at women, right, if a woman is up here, right, people think she's bossy. If a woman is down here, maybe she's lazy, okay? And if she's too quiet, oh, what a snob, okay? And if she talks too much, it stands up and asks questions. Oh my, she's very aggressive, leaving on time from work. Oh, maybe not very committed to your profession. And staying back at work too late. Oh, maybe you don't have time for your family. What should this woman do? Judged and kind of these deep-rooted biases day in and day out, that's there. So I think when it comes to women leaders, there is this perception that women leaders or leaders in general act in a certain way. But when the woman tends to push her team to perform, competitively or exhibit, or when she demonstrates being assertive or, kind of coming out very strong, that comes across as being, forceful leadership, because that actually deviates from the script of how she should ideally behave. But I think what we need to understand that in this world, there is a huge difference of being aggressive and being professionally assertive. And I think the day we kind of tend to separate those two and view it individually, I think that is when it will kind of make a difference. Because having an ambition and speaking with authority are not aggressive acts, right? So that's something to think about.
Can you repeat the last line you just said?
Yes. So having ambition and speaking with authority are not aggressive acts.
Fantastic. That was for a lot of our viewers listening to this and for us as well. Puja, I'd really like to hear your thought process on this.
It's actually, I want to, 2 decades back, if you'd asked my Punjabi family that, listen, this girl, she doesn't want to get married, but wants to study, do her master's, and build a career. I am not joking or exaggerating to tell you that they were all jumping off the roof. How could a girl do that? And you made a decision. You've not even asked us about it, and I had a list of colleges ready and I knew. And I literally took a break after my studies. I said, I'm going to work for a year. I'm going to build that budget up and I'm going to study for exams. And these are the colleges that I'm studying for. So what was difficult for everybody was that I did not fall in the typical stereotype that this girl is not ready for marriage. Is something wrong? Is our upbringing wrong? I mean, these kind of questions began. And it was not just my parents. It was my parents' siblings. It was the extended family. Everybody wanted to question because no other girl had ever decided for herself that she wants to study and not get married. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's just a piece of choice, right? It's my choice. I want to build that career. And shift 10 years after that, when my dad actually saw that I lived up to my word, he questioned my youngest sibling and sister and said that, okay, you finish your graduation. What's your plan? When are you doing masters? What's your job plan? Where are you heading to? He actually traveled with her everywhere to finish her interviews for that. So it was, if you want that change, you need to fight for it. There are going to be stereotypes. It's deep rooted. Unfortunately, no one's right or wrong. Your parents have been brought up and their situation was completely different. It was circumstantial for them to think like that. But if my dad and my mom saw that difference and saw it positively and questioned both my siblings, my younger brother and my sister, and asked, what are your plans? I mean, even though my brother was expected to join the family business, my dad questioned him. Are you also doing a master's? What's your backup in education? That's the kind of change that will actually occur if we all work towards it. It's unfortunately so deep rooted that this ethos will not change by any one of us fluttering over, how could you react like this? How could you bucket me in this? So this is the exact reaction that I apply at work as well. Fine, you feel I'm aggressive. You feel, I'm asking you to you've been hired to work, right? So am I hired to work? So if I'm working and you find me aggressive, no problem. Let's work at it together. Let's change that, that needs to come across together. So, I mean, the piece that I want to close this example with is always remember, for a communications professional, getting all the business teams and the sales teams, that is the revenue and the cost teams of the company aligned, that communications is important for you, is first of all the biggest problem. Then to have a female asking you to align with her, it's far more difficult. So if you do not put your foot down, do not get a little more aggressive, and be very clear, this is the objective I'm trying to achieve. It's very difficult to get the whole.
Is it just me, or Puja, you've gone on mute? Can you please unmute?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I think I missed the last part of your conversation.
Yeah, so I'm saying, until unless we don't stand for ourselves, we don't put our foot down, and we're not clear of what we want to achieve, whether you do it politely, aggressive, you get people along, you collaborate, does not matter. You need to put your foot down and plan towards it. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get a village to follow you. And that's exactly a village at home, village in professional life.
Fantastic. So leading yourself, leading a pack, but there is a flip side to it as well. A lot of bestsellers, about leadership and influence have highlighted liking as one of the 7 key ways, or everyone has a different way of putting it across, but liking as influencing others as a factor to influence others and building rapport. I mean, extroverts, for example, regardless of gender, we want to be liked, we want to be celebrated. So now moving on, we've established the fact that how it's important to be respected than being liked. And now I want to take a turn to this and ask you, Kavita, that how do we draw a balance? And it's also special because you started with this point that it's also okay to have the feeling of being liked. So how do we draw a balance that we're not crossing the line, and how important it is to be liked in the first place, and where should it stop?
Neha, I mean, I truly believe that, for leaders, I think, it's important that they are, first of all, their authentic self. Secondly, so they're not going through an imposter syndrome. They're not trying to be somebody else. They're not trying to, they have their own individual style, and an individual style that's actually linked back, or it's rooted in a vision, a very broad vision, which carries along people, which motivates people, which inspires people. A tonality which is very respectful and which is also very collaborative. That's why you're going to follow a leader. And that's when likability will be part of it. It's not something, likability is not something that you have to work towards consciously. However, if you're if you're using a very, I would say, disrespectful tone, no matter how broad or fantastic your vision is, people are not going to like you, nor are they going to respect you. So in my mind, it's very simple. If you want to be a leader, it's not necessary that you are an extrovert. That's another notion that everyone talks about, and I don't believe in it. Introverts can be great leaders too. I think the important bit over there is really about carrying along people, communicating very, very actively, a larger vision, a vision that inspires, motivates other people. That's what true leadership is all about. It's all about showing a bigger picture. It's allowing people to be the best version of themselves, inspiring them to really go towards a larger cause. And likability, respect, everything that you want to deliver, you want results, all that happens I would say, as a matter of fact. I mean, you don't have to really think too much about it. But yeah, very clearly, you need to set very sharp objectives. Because if people don't know where they're going destinationally, they're not going to be able to actually work towards those goals. So in my mind, respect, likability is not something that you have to, you don't have to go out of your way to do it. Just have to you have to do what you want to do. However, in a more, in a collaborative fashion, in a way that people feel like, yes, they want to be part of that journey as well. So it's not your personal journey alone, and you're definitely not trying to do something. It happens. It happens as a default for you. So yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kavita. Neha, I have to come back to you, not heard you, and it's always amazing to hear you speak. Please tell me, what are your views on this?
So how important it is for you to be liked, right? Interestingly, today morning, I was just talking about, do you want to be liked? And I was having a discussion. My 9-year-old daughter overheard me and she said, Mama, what kind of a question is it? Isn't that obvious? So, as human beings, I think it is just a natural instinct to be appreciated. Everyone wants to be liked. There is nobody who doesn't want to be liked. In fact, something that you said, Neha, earlier when you were talking about it, that when you are liked by someone, it's easier to get through to them, right? It's easier to make a point across to them. But I think, where do you think it's important to be liked? Is it important for me to be liked at home by my family, or is it more important for me to be liked at the workplace? Like any relationship, any relationship, whether it's at home, whether it's at workplace, your team or your family, there is reciprocity involved. right? There is, and similarly, that same thing is valid between a leader and their team. Now it's on the leader to decide where likability should stand in the list of parameters, right? In my view, and I agree with what Kavita said earlier, it's important to treat people with respect. It's important to treat people with fairness. Be a leader who's trusted to be fair. When people reach out to you, they know it doesn't matter whether you are likable or not likable, whether you like them or don't like them. You will listen to them and you're going to be fair to them. You will allow your teams to look beyond the obvious. You will delimit their options. And I think that's where it's important. As you grow up, as you move up to be a leader, it's very difficult to have one-on-one relationships with people. It's very difficult to have the same camaraderie that you would have enjoyed as a smaller team at one point of time. But it takes an effort, but it's probably best to be a respected and a fair leader rather than trying to be, having personal relationships or, the likability factor as a more important parameter in your relationship with the teams and the larger people you influence. That's what my take would be.
Fantastic. I mean, I'm already quite happy about the fact that we're making some incremental points and, moving on to this and totally, and we'll talk about this thing a little later as well, about how we spoke about respect and priorities when it comes to likability. But Divya, coming to you, in the quest to be liked, do you think when you see women around, when you be in this environment, do you think they are downplaying their achievements or backing off from negotiations, or many times don't even choose to take senior roles, forget about leadership?
It's an interesting question, Neha. And I would say that I think I've been quite lucky, I would say, to be born into a family where we've been treated as equals. My brother, my sister, and me have been completely treated as equals. And I think I've been even more lucky to be married off into a family where women are treated at par with men, So I think I've been one of those lucky few who probably haven't had to go through that dilemma. And hence my, personal perception of who I am has been true to the workplace that I've been into. So I've personally, I think that makes a difference. But if you actually look at it from a larger picture, gender-based inequality is still significant in a workplace, okay? And a recent study, in fact, showed that women are not as good as men when it comes to negotiating for themselves, okay? And yet, women outperform men when they negotiate on behalf of someone else, okay? And this is because women who negotiate for themselves are perceived as selfish, right? And women who kind of negotiate on behalf of someone else are perceived to be helpful, okay? So a helpful woman might be liked more than a woman who's assertive. Okay? Right. But when the helpful woman will not be recognized as having someone that it takes to be a successful leader, right? And this is something which is very, very true. And I'm sure many of our colleagues have gone through this dilemma at workplaces, right? So I think integrating leadership into one's own core identity, right, is particularly challenging for women, okay, in workplaces. And I think it's time for women to kind of start acknowledging, embracing, and promoting our own accomplishments. I mean, I'm not saying that you've got to go out there and be an annoying blowhard and position yourself as being better than anyone else. But I think trying to be, a better version of yourself. And that's what exactly I think Kavita spoke about earlier, right? It's not about being better than someone else, but how can you kind of be a better version of you? And I think that is very important. And I think another part is, we all have failures in life and we all take responsibility for those failures very, proactively. But I think we also need to start taking responsibilities for our successes and for our achievements, right? We need to learn to own our mistakes and achievements alike. Because I think if we start downplaying what we do, whether it is the great work we've done, whether it's a great doc that we've written, or, a great pitch that you've made to your client, right? If we are going to shy away from that, then, why would anybody want to hire you, right? And why would any of your clients or employers have confidence in you if you're going to kind of tone down your own achievements. So I think that is kind of very important. And I think we should kind of move away and start talking up a little more.
And that's fantastic. Last year when with one of our Wiki PR and Digital Marketing Council's upskilling workshop, we also did on creating a personal brand. And we spoke so much about it, that how when it comes to as communicators and it comes to speaking or talking about somebody else, it comes natural to us. But when it comes to our own accomplishments, we take a step back. So thanks for pressing on that point once again, Divya. Kavita, can I hear your perspective as well on this?
It's such a fascinating thing, we're talking about International Women's Day. We don't have anything like International Men's Day. The reason why we have International Women's Day is very simply because women are not really elevating their own brand story. And I think that it's time that we do that. I don't understand why a lot of women, and I'm going to talk about things that I've observed through my career. A lot of women are actually inhibited. They don't feel very confident to talk about their achievements, and which is sad because they are truly talented. They almost feel like, I should kind of hide beneath a rock and let my work speak for itself. Whereas their male colleagues will go tom-tomming, and it's absolutely natural for them to do that. So for me, I just truly believe that, I think it's nice to let your work speak for itself, but it's also very important to talk about what you've done. It's perfectly okay to celebrate your achievements. And very often, while men support other men, they sponsor other men, they will actually go out of their way to, identify them and train them for leadership. Women don't really do that as much. And I think it's very important. Two things that I'd like to call out here is that it's very important to dream big, dream fearlessly, go for it, communicate actively, network actively. These are things that, we don't really feel are important, but these are important actually in the current scenario. It allows us to build networks. It allows us to, like I said, elevate your personal brand story. So it's very nice if you're negotiating well for others, but I think it's time that you negotiate well for yourself. Don't feel inhibited. Don't feel that you can't talk about your achievements, because it's good to do it. I think the world should know about it. And more importantly, actively look out for mentors who can help you in your leadership journey. That's the way you're going to kind of, find your way to the top, and also more importantly, serve as a role model for other aspiring women leaders. And I think we should get rid of the inhibitions that are, or limitations of our mind. That's very important.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. And moving towards the last and now the most important segment of today's discussion, I read an article that said, "Teach her to reject likability." So, taking on from here, please, can each one of you tell us a few steps or actionable points that you think women should do to overcome this likability trap? And let's start from you, Puja.
Thanks, Neha. Just be shameless if you're intelligent. What's the harm? I mean, if you can understand what the brand or the company does, if you can guide the leaders through it, if you can build a fabulous campaign where you know what needs to be spoken about, doesn't that really give you some superhuman power already? So why are we not shameless about it? That's the intelligence we are equipped with. Just be out there about it. That's okay. It's absolutely fine. There's no harm about it. Now, that's something, when I agree when Kavita said, celebrate your achievements. That's your talent. Celebrate that. Not everybody comes or is able to equip themselves with this interesting insight or talent, or however we've honed this skill over the years. I mean, in my initial first 3 years of my career, I've been mentored, or I've always had women bosses. Sorry, I had to spell that out. But all of these women bosses, and one of them is on this panel, taught me something very important. Really work hard, understand what you're working towards, and never shy away from putting your foot down or being aggressive. I mean, being aggressive, why does it even have a negative connotation to it? So, as I said, be shameless about your intelligence, be aggressive. Now, most importantly, remember, even Disney movies for that matter, Brave, it's not a typical Disney princess. She's fighting the ethos back at home. She wants to be the archery queen, and she wants to put herself out there. It took a while for that princess mother to even acknowledge that she could have those powers. Now, think about Black Panther, Halle Berry in a Bond movie, Chacha Chaudhary, Shikari Shambhu. Why am I throwing these names? These are exact stereotypes that have been built with us over the years. So again, these were stereotypes that were given to us on a platter. No one really bothered whether there is respect or likability. Will they be followed? Will they be remembered? They are going to be remembered. They'll always be there because they actually broke some norm or some stereotype and communicated with you, whether be it through humor or through their talent. So my response to everybody is that at the end of the day, just don't forget, make everything about humor. Laugh at people who are building these stereotypes. It's absolutely okay. Question them back, show them another stereotype, take a walk. I mean, why is the central character in Devil Wears Prada not bothered about being liked? I mean, I'm bringing this example up because a lot of times I get compared to it and I'm like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that means you put me on a pedestal where I know what I'm doing, right? So
Absolutely.
You earn respect for your work. And if you're nice to your colleagues, you're nice to your team, you take care of your team members, you're polite to them even in the toughest of situations, trust me, the likability or the best friends or they cheering for you, all of that will happen. But don't be an empty vessel who wants to be shining out the most. That's not the kind of benchmark that we should set for any of the generations ahead. So be shameless about everything that you know.
Thank you so much, Puja. That was amazing. Neha, what would you like to some of your last notes for this?
On the likability trap, I would say that the very step for me is, well, to recognize that it exists. Now, is there a playbook to deal with it? No. There is a ton of annexures, but there is no playbook. There is no right. There is no wrong. It is for each their own. I think it's pretty much like parenting, right? You have a lot of inputs from a lot of places, but then you figure out your own way that suits you the best. All you need to do is, you need to be true to yourself. I think at any given point of time, if you are true to yourself, if you don't have to do anything for others, do it for yourself. Do it because you believe in it. And don't let this whole likability trap stop you ever from reaching out for new opportunities. I think it's just very important to be true to yourself. As long as you can do that, and whatever you do is for yourself, that's enough. I think the likability piece will settle it by itself. But let's definitely keep talking about it. It's very important to keep talking about it, to keep engaging, to keep having more such conversations, and not just around International Women's Day, but throughout the year, because it's very important to keep, nailing some of these issues and talking about it till the time we've really found the playbook for it.
Great, thank you. Divya, can we hear some of your points here?
I just loved the point that Neha made about parenting, I must say. I think that is such a very well put point, and I kind of relate to that. But I think, if you ask me, I think we need to, first, like Neha said, accept that it exists. And secondly, I think, we need to disrupt stereotypes, right? And redefine what it is to be a leader. It doesn't have to necessarily be a male leader or a female leader, right? So I think that is something that we definitely need to do. Second thing is speak up. I think when there are questions that are being made about a woman's appearance or personality rather than her skills or her ability, I think we need to speak up. And it is just not about, like everybody said, it's not just around International Women's Day, but I think this is, through the year, through, our tenures at work, at home, everywhere, And I think the other point is find new and exciting ways to challenge yourself, because I think we need to stop playing it safe. because we're afraid that we're vulnerable and that we might face failures and all of that. I think we need to kind of quit that. I spend a lot of time, worrying, and Neha, you started with that, about how I'm perceived, right? And it's true for most of us. I keep thinking, if I ask a lot of questions, will you find me combative? If I tell you that, about an accomplishment that I'm really proud of, do you think that I'm conceited? But I need, and I do seek the approval and recognition of my family, of my friends, and of my colleagues, right? And that's, again, something that's there within all of us, right? I mean, we want to hear that, and we want to be liked and respected. And like many of us out there, and like many of the women who are listening to us, I think I want to be liked. And I'm actually hopeful for the day when I can tell my daughter and I can tell my nieces that you will be recognized for not just being competent, but also you will be liked for being who you are.
Wow, that was fantastic. Kavita, coming to you.
I just liked what Puja had said, earlier. All of this is very deep-rooted. The bias is deep-rooted. It comes, it's been there for a very, very long time. And we, whether we like it or not, we are in a patriarchal society. Having said that, things are changing. And, Neha and Divya said it, that, a lot of things actually depend, while you can't really control the external world or what people perceive of you as an individual. You can't actually control how much they like you, because it depends. It's a very, I would say, subjective feeling, subjective emotion. It depends on the emotional mind space of the person that you're talking to, right? What you, however, can control is really your actions and your behaviors. So if I were to really, while Neha said there is no playbook, I'm going to differ there and say that there is a playbook, and that playbook actually sits within you. It lies within you. So first of all, break the bias that you carry about yourself, right? Rework, rewire your own brains, because that's a damn good starting point. And that's something that you can completely control. You can actually work on it. So 3 questions that I would really urge everyone to ask, when you're thinking about likability and respect. So the first one that I would ask is, can I succeed if people don't like me? Yeah. And there are enough and more successful people across the genders who actually are thriving and succeeding rather well, in spite of the fact that we don't like them. And you just have to look at your own self. There are enough people in your own circle that you don't like, and yet they are super successful. You also may be respecting them a great deal. So hence, it's not very important for you to consider external approval as your main guiding post. Your main guiding post has to be really what you want to achieve. And is that something that's really important for you? Is that going to carry along, a larger crowd? It might not carry along everyone. So you can't aim to be Miss World. You will not be Miss Popularity, but you will achieve a certain goal that you've set your mind to. Secondly, second question that I would also urge you to ask is that, if I always agree with everyone around me, am I being myself? Am I being my true, authentic self? Am I voicing my opinions or my thoughts the way I want to voice them? Or is my voice getting kind of, drowned, lost in that, in the noise outside? So is my authentic voice, my opinion out there in the world for everyone to hear? I think that's something that's really important. It'll help you to kind of, decide whether likability is more important or your own voice, your own views on a certain matter are more important. And the last question that I would urge everyone to ask themselves is that, what would happen if I didn't try to please everyone? Would I be able to continue with my life? And, there are simple ways of knowing this, like I said, you don't have to try and be Miss Popularity. You have to keep, what Puja said earlier, you need to stay focused on your goal. You need to know your stuff. You can't be an empty vessel. You can't try and, kind of be superficial. if you know what you're going towards, if you're if you're a subject matter expert, people are going to definitely respect your opinion, and likability will follow from there once they respect you. And of course, the tonality that Neha was talking about, the fairness, all of that is really part of the whole package. So three very simple things, try and see if you can kind of imbibe them each time you're kind of going through towards that likability trap.
Brilliant. I mean, thank you very much, ladies, for bringing up those vivid, actionable points. And like all of you said, that the discussions must carry on, the talks must carry on, because while we all know that the change is happening, we also know that it is really slow. So whatever we can contribute to this, I think that itself would be commendable. So on that note, for the viewers today, we heard some instrumental women making a change in their own way, leading a path for a lot of others looking up to them. And I read somewhere that the urge to be liked is a powerful force in this world. It can force you to rethink behavior, success, appearances, and even relationships. But despite even the very best efforts that we make, no one has a say in how much would people will like them. On that note, find your allies, stand by them, understand your communication styles, tonality, and pitch, which we spoke about. Choose your words carefully. Call out the bias. Encourage feedback, but accept it selectively. And last but not the least, make your peace with being more respected than liked. On behalf of Wiki, PR, and Digital Marketing Council, I, Neha Mishra, would like to thank each one of you for your valuable time and enormous contribution towards paving the path for all of those minds who are willing to bring the change. Together, let's break the bias. Thank you very much.
Thank you.